that is a 150mm stem, which is simply gigantic on a road bike. I spotted this on a pro bike in Spain recently, and it's one thing I highly recommend you don't copy from the pros unless you want a bad back. Now, we all admire the pros for their ungodly speed and bike handling skills, and you think they all have amazing bike setups. But in my experience of covering the sport for 20+ years with magazines, that often isn't the case. But the pros spend a lot of time on the bike and they know what works for them, and we are all guilty at some point of copying the pros, whether slamming your stem or wearing Aero socks or whatever it is, and that's all fine, you can copy the pros. But some things are definitely best left to the pros, as I'll share in this video. I spent a few days roaming around the team trucks and team bikes in the January training camps in Spain recently to get an idea of what tech trends are popular and not popular with the pros right now. So let's start with stem length and also stem spaces, but first length, because stem length has always been, a long stem has always been a sign of a pro bike. They like a long, low, aggressive fit on the bike to get aero, and it's comfortable for them, it works for them. They ride their bike for 30,000+ kilometers a year. And often in the past, a long stem was done because the rider in question would go down to a smaller frame size than recommended by that frame manufacturer to get the lower stack, the shorter head tube, and compensate by the shorter reach with a long stem. But I saw a definite trend away from downsizing to the next frame size and actually riding the correct frame for their height, but still running a gigantic stem. So this Villa Falante SLR, ridden by a rider who is 1 centimeter shorter than me, running the same size large frame as I do, but has a 150 stem, which is massive. I can't imagine riding that bike with 150 stem unless he has gorilla arms. But I saw the riders outside the team truck in the morning before their training ride, and they all appeared to be normally proportioned as us. And while pros are unique in their fitness abilities, they're not unique in their proportions in terms of legs and arms. So he didn't have really long arms. So my guess is he's running the right size frame and a super long stem to get a super low stretch position, which allows him to be aerodynamic, because aero is really important when setting the bikes up for the pro riders. And that leads me on to the next observation in stem spaces. The other giveaway tell of a pro bike in the past wasn't only stem length, but also a slam stem. And we are all guilty of slamming our stems in the past. I still do it, I can't help myself, but the pros, it seems, aren't automatically slamming their stems on their new team bikes, because the entire Group Armour FDJ team, their truck was outside my hotel, so I had a good nose around, all had various amounts of spaces underneath their stems. I didn't see one slam bike. The only slam bike in the hotel was mine, which was really interesting. And I asked the mechanic, and he didn't really know because he's not a bike fit person in the team, but he didn't really agree with it either. So my hunch on why the riders on the team aren't slamming their stems anymore is all to do with aerodynamics. Because as we know, the riders favour the position of aerodynamics in the hoods with their arms in an L-shaped sort of 90-degree bend in the elbow to get nice and aero. So by lifting the stem up, they can get into that more aero position and create a more compact body shape and reduce the gap between your head and your forearms. In the same way we've seen time trial positions evolve from super low stretched to now bring the tri-bars, the extensions right up like that to reduce that gap between the head and the arms and make a more compact sort of shape. So smaller frontal surface area, so you're pushing less body through the air. So I think that's the same thing happening on road bikes. Bring the stem up, so bring your arms up and just create a position that's more comfortable for long rides, 6 hours in the saddle with a peloton behind you, and more aerodynamic. Now, I don't have any confirmation from the teams that this is the reason why they're doing it, because most teams are very guarded around such things as bike setup and tyre pressures. They won't tell you because they're secret source. So that's my hunch on why riders are both running long stems still, but on the frames that are correct for their height, and also not slamming the stems anymore. So yeah, it's an odd one to see a pro bike with a stack of spaces that would not look out of place outside my local bike shop and cafe at all. So definitely copy stem spaces. That's a good move by the pros and something that makes a lot of sense for us amateurs. but probably don't copy the long stems unless you want to give yourself a bad back or you have really long arms. So yeah, interesting observations there. Let me know your thoughts by dropping a comment down below. The other big trend in the pro peloton that's probably best left in the pro peloton are big chainring sizes. It used to be a 53-39 was a standard double for the pros, and us regular people could ride a 52-36 semi-compact or a compact 50-34, but the pros are going big. So the new standard seems to be a 54-40, but I saw quite a few riders on a 56-44 chainring size for flat stages and for the sprints. So big chainring sizes, also about efficiency as well. Bigger chainrings are more efficient, less chain articulation around the chain rings. So efficiency, and if your rivals are going to a bigger chainring size, then you have to match them and go to a big chainring size as well. So there's one-upmanship in chainring sizes, but probably best left to the pros unless you're actually racing, actually riding at the high speeds they do. But it does look like the UCI are trying to slow the ride down, and one way they could do that, the one way they are talking about it, is smaller chain rings or having a fixed size limit, and simply going back to a 53-39 like you used to have in the olden days, not that many years ago really, would be one way to kind of slow them down a bit and just level that playing field. Wide tyres are no longer just oddity in the pro peloton, they are the new normal. In my cross-section of teams, I didn't see a tyre narrower than 28. Yes, if I go onto a quick set team, I might see a 26, but all the teams I saw had 28 as a minimum, and quite a few had 30mm wide tyres. And even Aero bikes like the Trek Madone SLR and the Giant Propel had 30mm wide tyres. So even where Aero is everything, and we're talking about raising the handlebar heights for more Aero potentially, they're still embracing wide tyres. So clearly not slowing them down, and the UCI trying to slow the pros down, and wide tyres are definitely not slowing them down at all. Then good enough for them. There's no reason why we shouldn't all embrace wide tyres. I mean, lots of us are, but I still see the comments from people who think that 25s are fine, and there might be if you have silky smooth roads. But I spent a week riding 30mm wide tyres in Calpe where the roads are buttery smooth, and the tyres are perfect. I had no reason to go narrower or wider. Definitely the sweet spot on the roads out in Spain. I've been a big fan of 3D printed saddles since they first came out with Physique and Specialized, and it seems the pros are finally catching up because lots of pro bikes have these saddles fitted, helped by the fact that more bike companies, more saddle companies are now making these saddles as well. And hopefully with more choice and more options out there, the prices should come down and make it more accessible to more people. So definitely comfort focused technology here. I spent a week not riding one of these in Calpe, and I regret that decision deeply. So definitely these saddles are sweeping through the pro peloton, and that's a trend I think we can all embrace. Yes, the prices are high, I know that, but prices are coming down, and I've been riding an AliExpress one very happily on my Specialized Crux, and that didn't cost a fortune either. So cheap options are out there if you want them. Another trend is Aero tyres. Continental released their 111 Aero tyres at Eurobike last year, and quite a few bikes are sporting them. And probably, no, unless you really need Aero tyres, leave it to the pros. I mean, do we average people need Aero tyres on our bikes? Probably not. They are expensive. They are for aero marginal gains, so probably one to leave to the pros. Unless you're doing a time trial perhaps, but yeah, if you're rocking up to a cafe with these Aero tyres, they're probably overkill. So leave that to the pros, I would say. Along with wide tyres are low tyre pressure too. There's no point running a 30mm wide tyre at 120 psi at all. And pros are embracing low pressures, as the sticker on the top tube of the Trek Madone belonging to the Lidl Trek team shows, as low as 56 psi. So very low indeed. The same as I run. I run 50, 55 psi depending on conditions. And that's the other key thing as well. As you can see, they have dry and wet tyre pressures, lower when it's wet. And lots of people do know that tyre pressure should be adjusted for conditions, whether dry or wet, but I don't know how common that information is. So definitely worth adjusting your pressures lower when conditions are worse and wet and slippery. And apps like the one from Silka and SRAM do take into account conditions. They ask you if it's dry or wet, so definitely worth modifying your tyre pressure for dry and wet conditions. The other thing that's definitely worth copying from the pros and is cool are saddlebags. I spent a week riding in Calpe, did I mention that yet? And I saw loads of pros out training that weren't supported by a team car, and they had a saddlebag on their bike. Because they're training, they're not supported by a team car with spare wheels and a mechanic in the back seat of the car. They're on their own with a buddy. They need spare inner tubes, gas canisters and chain breaker and multi-tool in their saddlebag. And you know, it works for them. They're out training, it's a job, and they need to get back on the road if they have mechanical. So I see lots of people really sniffy and snobby about saddlebags on race bikes, but unless you're followed by a support car, have a saddlebag on your bike. So it's fine for the pros, it's fine for you as well. Because riders are trying to get this really sort of low aero position with their L-shaped 90-degree bend arms and the heads nice and low, long stems as well, I saw quite a few riders at different teams with their saddles pushed right forward in the rails and also quite a few nose down. Now, I don't think you find any bike fitter, any pro bike fitter, who would recommend a saddle that's nose down and push right forward in the rails. They're pointing at something else wrong with your bike fit. The pros are doing this to achieve that super aggressive, extreme aero position. They don't really care about comfort. Comfort is way down the list of priorities for them. A saddle is designed to be run nice and level, and nose up or nose down is a sign that something else is going wrong with your bike fit. So I wouldn't go and copy the pros and slam your saddle forward and nose down unless you are trying to achieve a super aggressive aero time trial position. But I would recommend a nice level saddle position, and somewhere neutral in the middle of the rails is the best setup really for comfort, which is a priority for us. The other hot tech trend right now is short cranks. Saddlebags started the whole trend recently, and lots of amateurs and even pros are copying this. But we don't know the real reason why Taddy is actually embracing short cranks. It's not because short cranks are automatically faster than long cranks. There's other stuff to do with his bike fit, trying to get his pelvis and hip in the right position for that extreme fit on the bike he wants. And again, pro bike fitter Lee Prescott explained this topic really well in a video linked above about why short cranks are being embraced by pros. But from the small sample size of pro bikes I looked at, most are running 1725 or 175, so no real sign that all the peloton are embracing short cranks. And this rider on a giant Propel, Alessandro De Marchi, is the same height as me, 5'11", and running 175 cranks. So no sign he's going to shorter cranks. In fact, he's running longer cranks for his fit requirements. So from the bikes I looked at, I saw no real sign of the teams and the riders embracing short cranks. So still very much a kind of novelty at the fringe of the peloton in terms of its adoption. But I'll do some more scoping around team trucks and team bikes at future races very soon to see whether more riders are embracing short cranks and whether you should. Probably not. Go to short cranks won't automatically make you faster, will it? So there are plenty of other things we can all work on before we go to short cranks as a silver bullet for more performance and speed. Those then are some pro bike setup tricks and tips to avoid or copy based on your preference that I saw from a week roaming around the team trucks during their January training camps in Spain last week. Let me know what you think of the tech trends and tech setups. Which ones do you embrace? Which do you think you should copy or avoid and want to miss by dropping a comment down below. And if you want to see some other pro bike setups to not copy, then watch the video right here. And of course, don't forget to subscribe by hitting the button right here. But that's all for today. I'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much for watching.